It's Coach Bob with you today, and today we're going to talk about a topic that very few people think about, but one that is really actually very, very important. It's going to have to do with lane position. You know, where do you ride? And I know that there are people going, man, the Spyder's so big, you take up the whole lane. Well, that's not quite true most of the time. There are narrow roads where you will occupy the entire lane, but that's not true most of the time. All right, well, before we open this very delicate topic and have a frank discussion, I want you to do me a favor. Give the video a big old fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment again, all that jazz. All right, enough of that. I'm tired of being the traveling salesman. His porch is falling down. All right. So this is a nice wide lane, and we're going to talk about positions. Now, you have positions on a two-wheeled motorcycle. We're going to talk about that. So let's talk about position one. Position one is the left-hand side of the right-hand lane. It's that inside line right here. That's position one. And then position two is the very, very middle. And then position three is over here on this side, out here. Now, you can see on the Spyder, wow, I can ride in position 1, 2, and 3. When would I need to? Why would I need to? And where do I prefer to ride? And all of those answers may be a tad different. In fact, they are all different. All right. So let's talk about my preferred position as a default. You know, just like we did the video where we were talking about steering, the default is the Spyder wants to go in a straight line. My default is lane one, lane position number 1. Here's why. First off, I like it better. No, the primary reason is because this gives me the entire lane. Here's what I mean by that. If I'm over here and an idiot decides he wants to pass me, he may occupy that part of the lane and push me off the road. And I have nowhere to go but in the grass. You know, a while back I saw a guy on a motorcycle, two-wheeled motorcycle. He was on the interstate, and he was literally a foot from that line over there on the interstate. And I saw a diesel truck, an 18-wheeler, a big rig, pass him in the same lane. It was like he was walking down the road. They considered him like a pedestrian or something. And the guy just kind of weaved out a little bit and went right by him. It's incredibly dangerous. You don't want to share your lane with anyone. You just don't want to do it. It's your lane. The lane belongs to you. So position 1 gives you that. And that is my default. Now, position 1 does a lot of things as well. We're going to talk about the avoidance of certain things here in a moment, but there's position 1. That's my default. So let's talk about, move on over here, position 2. Here, by the way, when you're looking at me ride, I'm in my lane, but I do realize the camera makes it look like I'm over in that lane. All right. Position 2, right in the center. Here I am. Now, this is where you'll see most Spyder riders riding. I really don't prefer this position. I'm going to tell you why. I don't like it because in that center spot, there are no tires on vehicles. Well, for like this truck, for example, there's no tire in the middle of that thing. So what leaks out of a lot of these old cars and stuff? Oil. You'll see in this road, there's a dark line going down the middle of it. And that dark line is oil and gas and dirt and debris that has all been blown up in the center section. And my back tire is dragging through all of that. I really don't like that. You hit a bunch of oil, you hit diesel or something, all of a sudden your back tire is less solid. You're not going to fall, obviously, but you can slide if you're on a curve or something. And so you have to take that into consideration. Look at what's going on. Look at what's in the lane. We're going to talk about debris and lane position here in a moment. But position 2 in this lane is just dead center. I use it at times. There are times I have to use it. But understand what you're doing. You are dropping that back tire right over the top of motor oil and debris. All right. Position 3. Here we go. Over here. This is what I call the inexperienced rider's position. People that are afraid of oncoming traffic, and so they end up being here because they're worried they're too close to a car over there. They're worried they're too close to a truck or a bus or whatever it is. Now look, if the guy's in your lane, get out of his way. You know, don't be stupid. Oh, I'm holding my line, and I don't care if you kill me or not. That's just dumb. There is a time to use position 3. Now, I'm not going to use it up here because you can see this guy's mowing all the grass out in the road. And there he is right there. They mow out here all the time. So I'm going to move over into position 1. I'm going to get around him. And there we go. I'm back over into position 3 to show you. Now, there are a lot of things I don't like about position 3. And we're going to talk about it, but there's a time to use it. The only time I use this is when I'm avoiding something. When I'm avoiding a car, when I'm avoiding water, when I'm avoiding potholes, when I'm avoiding something, lane position 3. Otherwise, I'm just not using it. So position 1 is my default. We've talked about that. Let's talk about what we need to avoid when we're in position 1. Because everything in life has an advantage and a disadvantage. I know people that want to argue about politics and life. They have a hard time believing more than one thing can be true at one time. You know, so they try to paint you in a corner. Well, you think this. Yeah, well, okay. I also think this. Oh, well, no, you don't. You can't think that because you think this. You can believe more than one thing can be true at a time, folks. Okay. So lane position 1, here I am. Now, let's say the road is super wide. I may be able to get that front tire out of the oil. But what I can do is there is a spot in position 1, in lane position 1, where you can line that oil spot up with your knee, this knee right here, and that oil is passing between your front tire and your rear tire. So you're still getting to operate in this part of the lane where you want to be, to where you're away from the cars, and you're still being able to protect your lane position, to utilize the entire lane, and you're out of that oil. You're straddling it with that tire and your back tire. That is my primary objective when I'm doing this. That's what I do. So sometimes it may look like I'm not pushing that yellow line as much as I could. I can push it heavy, and depending on the road condition I may, and depending on where that oil line is I may. But if I have a tire sitting directly in that oil, I'll intentionally straddle that oil, and that's what I try to do. It allows me to hold this position, and it allows that back tire to sit to the left of the oil and the front tire to sit to the right of it. All right. So lane position 1, we know that's our default. That gives us the most protection, the greatest visibility, all of that stuff. We're going to turn here. I've got this guy barreling down on me. Always check your rear view mirrors. If you're making a left turn and a guy is not slowing down and he looks like he's going to kill you, just don't stop. Miss your turn. You can always turn around. Don't get killed to prove a point. All right. So let's talk about lane position 2 and why I would use it. So position 2 is my default when it's really a deluge of water. You have a high point right here in the middle of the road. Now, the bad thing about this position is we all know that when oil gets wet, it gets slippery. On a two-wheel motorcycle, this position is a killer. It's a killer in the rain. I'm just going to tell you point blank. Certainly at low speeds, man, you'll hit a curve and you'll end up eating some gravel, man. It can be bad. It can get really slippery out here. Remember, on the Spyder, you're steering with your front wheels. Those front wheels are now out of the oil, completely out of the oil. Your back tire is your propulsion. And your propulsion, the main function of it at this point that you're trying to keep everything from doing is hydroplaning. And when you're in the center of the lane, which is also normally The highest part of the lane, at least it is where I live, from the big old trucks driving down the road, the left and right hand side of the lane is kind of dipped in. Those sections hold a lot of water, so if I can get in this middle section, I'm normally above the water. My front tires are narrow enough to where they're inside the big trough, and my back tire is up high. I'm just out of the water. There are times I may have to move a little to the left or a little to the right in order to accomplish that. There are roads, position 1, position 3 might get you out of the water. But generally speaking, for me, where I ride, position 2 gets me above the water. It can change on road conditions and all that, but generally speaking, that's where it is for me. All right. So let's talk about position 3, what's good about it. So position 1, the bad thing is you can deal with oncoming traffic. Your front right tire can be in the path of the oil. There are some bad things about position 1. The bad thing about position 2, your back tire is tracking right through the oil, and that's never good because it makes it more slippery. But you're weighing the good and the bad. You're trying to create your greatest potential for success. All right. So let's talk about position 3. Why would you use it, and the hazards? Position 3, in my honest opinion, is the most dangerous position on the road. There are times you need to use it though. When are you going to need to use it? Well, whenever there is an obstacle in position 1, you're going to have to get out of the way. And that obstacle could be a pothole, it could be a car, it could be a tree limb, it could be a big old snapping turtle. In this part of the country, I've had to move into position 3 to keep from running over an alligator, okay? So there are times position 3 is needed, but it's not optimal. I use that only in a case of emergency. Now, if I'm riding with another Spyder rider and they're in position 1, I will be in position 3 simply so I'm not directly behind them. I don't like riding directly behind anything, just being honest with you, because it impedes my visibility. If I can see what they've got in front of them, I can kind of project what they're going to do. And if they miss it and they run into it, I've already stopped, and at least I didn't get killed, right? But if I'm directly behind them, I can't see the obstacle in the way, and therefore I'm in big trouble. All right, I'm going to move over because this lawnmower's a long guy over here, so I don't want to be over in position 3. So position 3, just like with position 1, you put your front right tire in the oil. In position 3, you put your front left tire in the oil. Now you can slide a little bit over to the left, and you can straddle it. We're going to talk about how to straddle things here in a moment. It's really not difficult at all, depending on the width of the obstacle, right? So here I am, position 3, I'm to the right. What do you see over here? And I've got nothing behind me, I've scanned. What do we see down here? Well, we see grass coming up on the edge of the road, that's one. This edge of the road, that's where it drops off into the grass. The structural integrity of that part of the road is normally the part that disintegrates first. So you're going to have more potholes, more bumps, more obstacles that are going to bump steer you and could bump steer you into the ditch, which is a very unforgiving environment. The other thing is that as lawnmowers throw things up there, you're gonna have more debris here. Also, your debris field is because this part of the lane is always occupied by automobiles. They're constantly blowing garbage and stuff over to the side of the road. In the crown on the road, when it rains, it washes debris. You're going to pick up more nails and screws and glass and all of that stuff in position 3 than you are the other 2 positions combined. It's just the general nature of it. You're going to cut a tire. So position 3, I call it the avoidance position, or I call it the group ride position. Other than that, I have no reason to use that spot of the road at all. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I don't like it on 2-wheelers. I don't like it on 3-wheelers. I am giving up my lane, and cars will take the open spot. That's what they do. Whether you like it or not, you can smash their mirror, stomp around like a 4-year-old, but in the end, they're gonna create a problem for you, and you can't win that battle. I just want to tell you that. You can be a jerk or whatever, but you can't win the battle. They're gonna run right over you. All they got to do is come over, and you're over there. We've all seen it. There's enough videos online of cars just running motorcycles off the road because they don't like them. They, don't put yourself in that position. All right. So here I am. I'm occupying all 3 positions. No, we never do that. Right. So you see we have the flashing lights up here. If I was in position 3, I would be really close to those guys. I'm going to be in position 1. In fact, I am going to move over, and I'm going to try to make sure I give them more than enough room. Always try to be courteous. All right. So this middle line, yes, I'm watching. There's nothing in front of me. I don't want to hit the little road, click, 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 your little reflectors. You don't hear them. The reason I'm not hitting them. How did I do that? How did I straddle them so easily? Here is your trick on straddling. Your knee or your foot peg. If it basically between your knee and the edge of that foot peg right there, so between my knee, the inside of my knee, and the outside of that foot peg, that's quite a stretch. That's quite a long way. If I can line it up there, I'm not going to hit it. You may feel like you're going to hit it, but you're not going to, because that's an empty spot. You've got a good foot in there, So if it's a reasonable obstacle, and most obstacles are, it's a possum or a raccoon around here. Every now and then, though, you'll see something in the road, that you want to completely avoid, but you can't. You don't have a choice. You got a diesel truck behind you and a log truck coming in the opposite direction, and you got no choice. So you have to straddle it. That's what you do. Avoiding the obstacle is always the best, but if you're in a position where you need to straddle something, that's your trick. Are there more tricks? Not really. What will happen is but now that you have a frame of reference, your knee and your foot peg, now that you have that frame of reference, it will become natural. That will just become natural to you. And then you'll find yourself straddling small things, small obstacles that you can observe and go, that's really not a problem. I can go right over the top of that. And you can practice that. Again, if you have a stretch of road that has, the grooves or has reflectors where you can safely straddle those things, ride a mile straddling them. Do it at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour to where you can straddle stuff and get good at it. You have to build your skills. Look, I've said all along, the Spyder is easy to ride. It is very easy to ride. But as with anything that you're driving or riding, whether it's a Jeep, whether it's a Spyder, whether it's a traditional motorcycle, it is a skill. And you get better at it by practicing and learning. Pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to where you are. Remember that every time you do this, you are putting yourself in harm's way. You are. Whether you want to believe it or not, you are. Life is dangerous. So, ride safely, work on your skills, become a better rider. All right. Boy, that is a good looking truck, man. I love the way they do these dual exhausts now, the way it's cut out in that bumper like that. That looks so good. And that is a clean truck too, man. That thing is shiny, let me tell you. See all these cars? Yeah, you see all those cars? Yeah, there's one in front of me, one behind me, and a bunch of them all over the place, and you probably live in a busier place than me. You see them, but trust me, they may not see you. All right. Well, there you have it, another one in the book. So you do me a favor. You go out, buy the motorcycle of your dreams. Eat right. Take care of yourself. And remember, if you're not having fun, you are most definitely doing it wrong. Now, you go seize the day, and I will see you on the road real soon.